I'm really excited about the possibilities, because if we can get this club moving in the direction that everybody wants it to move in, it will be an exciting journey, I can tell you.
Nigel, long-term deal as permanent Bristol City manager. What are your thoughts on the opportunity and the challenge ahead?
Well, I mean, I'm just delighted to be here, to be honest with you. It's, this season's finishing with a bit of a whimper, and it's disappointing, and it's, whatever adjectives you want to use to which evokes disappointment. It's a shame, but having said that, I'm already in planning mode, looking at what the possibilities are, and I think it's whatever we think about this season in terms of how it's finishing. I think the most important thing is our desire to really push the club onto a different level. So, I don't think there's any reason not to think about the possibilities of becoming a Premier League side, but also we've got to be very clear as to what that journey looks like. And at the moment, we have to deal with the present, which is really understanding where we are, and what we need to do to become a Premier League club. So just from a personal level, I think this is such a fantastic opportunity. I think it's a really sound football club that has so much more potential, and I've avoided using that word, but we do have a lot of potential, and I think it's really an amazing challenge, really. So I'm delighted to become the permanent manager here, for all those reasons, and it really does stimulate me.
Back in February, you accepted the role very quickly. And then Steve Lansdowne talked about a try before you buy period, so to speak. So what were the key factors in you accepting the role on a permanent basis?
Well, if Steve talks in those terms, just looking at the results, it's not, it doesn't look too promising. Having said that, I would like to think that he sees in me somebody who really wants to develop the football club on lots of different levels, as he does as well. So I just, it's a situation that I didn't expect to come along. It's a football, Bristol City is a football club I've always had a lot of admiration for, but it's in many ways it's a bit of a conundrum, so to speak, of why the club remains in the Championship. I think it's one of those. I do think it's a really fabulous opportunity for us all to try and at least create a very positive culture within the club, which allows us to develop on the field. And I think that's the most important thing. One of the things that strikes me about working for the Lansdowne, so to speak, is that they have a long-term vision, not just for Bristol City, but for the whole area in terms of sport. But Bristol City is such it's a very unique opportunity, I think.
You do place a lot of emphasis on accountability and developing a culture. What's your philosophy, and how do you go about building a winning Bristol City?
Well, that doesn't happen overnight, and I think it's really important that everybody associated with the club has ownership of what we do, and I think that's really something that I don't see enough of at the moment. And I think the playing squad has to really have an ownership of what we're trying to achieve, and I think maybe we've not quite got that right at the moment. So I'm really happy to put my head on the block, so to speak, because I want to be responsible for what happens on the field, and I think it's really important to set the scene and to make sure that everybody knows where they sit in terms of their roles and responsibilities in creating a winning culture. And that's really what it's about. It's about trying to create a winning culture in which everybody understands their role and has a positive input.
So talk about taking time to do that. I think with Leicester City, probably just short of 3 seasons to get to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Do you see a similar kind of opportunity at Bristol City?
Yes. Yeah, basically. That's why it interests me so much. It will be different because the people are different. But there are similarities. I think one of the positive things for us this year is that just based on how the playing squad is, we've got potential to make changes this year. I think it's had a negative effect on where we are at the moment because we've got a lot of players out of contract, and there's been a feeling of vulnerability around the place. But having said that, we do have we have a good starting point now, and certainly looking towards next season, I think it's important that how we continue to develop the squad is that we get the foundations right, that we have a real impact in terms of how we move the squad forward. So I think, look, I've signed for 3 years. I would say that is a realistic timescale to get there, but of course we want to get there earlier.
With those players who are out of contract, how do you go about deciding? You've obviously seen them since February, since you came in.
Yeah.
What does the task entail of deciding whether those players are right to stay at Bristol City or what players you need to bring in?
It's got to be based on technical ability, but more than that, I suppose, they've got to be the right sorts of people. They've got to, as I've said earlier about ownership, really important that players are prepared to carry a weight of responsibility themselves. And that's a very important part of how we build a culture here. So there's going to be a number of factors which if you like, help me to decide, or us to decide, how we sort of take the squad forward, and that will be whether players remain here or not, or out of contract. It will. We really do need to look at the balance of the squad and make sure that it's a very competitive one. I think sometimes clubs can operate with too many players. I would like to have a more available squad, and we've suffered with too many injuries this year, and that's something that we need to address. So the squad needs to be fit enough. It needs to be competitive enough. But ultimately, it needs to be good enough.
That robustness of player to be competitive, is that peculiar, do you think, to the Championship? I'm just thinking about how perhaps Bristol City have dropped off in the last few years towards the second half. Yeah. Is that, talk about players being strong and fit, etc. Does that all feed into that?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's both mentally strong enough, but physically, this year we've come up short, basically, because players have, we've had players who have basically broken. Too many players have become unavailable, and that's a problem for us. So, No, there's no getting away from the fact that we've got a lot of very talented players who have been unavailable for long periods of time. Now, it's not about now spending too much time finger pointing. What it is about is making sure that moving forward that we don't have these problems. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And a more competitive squad in terms of size-wise and quality-wise will, I think that those things together create a more stimulating atmosphere to work in. So, for players and staff alike.
We are in a peculiar set of circumstances, Nigel, with Mark Ashton departing.
Yeah.
A lot of players out of contract.
Yeah.
A summer which you've already referred to will be a transfer market perhaps like no other. All those things together, does that excite you as a challenge, or do you go, "Ooh, it's going to be an interesting few months"?
It is going to be interesting, but I also think it's important to point out we're not going to be signing lots and lots of players. It's really important to be very clear on this, that we need to build the foundations in this window. We're not going to be able to totally change how the squad looks, and the reason for that is that we've got a lot of very good players who are currently not available. So it's just about getting the foundations right in this window. With financial fair play and with the very climate that we're operating in at the moment. Football's gone through what's been a very challenging 15 months, if you like, and we are very fortunate at Bristol City that our financial foundations and our the way that the club is structured is a really good base for us to work from. But it's important that we don't have this feeling that everything's going to change in one hit. It's not going to be like that. We're going to have to be very creative with how we improve the squad. But I do think there is a big scope to actually improve the current squad that we have. But I think people need to have a realistic handle on what developing a squad looks like. And first and foremost, we need to get the best out of what we got. Now, I admit at the moment that this season remains a real frustration because, with the players that we do have here, I think we've underachieved. I believe in giving people an opportunity to come along on the journey. If they choose not to come on the journey, then they can go. It's as simple as that.
Before today, you've been very deliberate about not using the word potential.
Yeah.
How would you describe Bristol City, and where do you want to take this club?
I want to be a part of a team that gets to the Premier League. Very straightforward. I'm not kidding myself that it's going to be tough, but I don't see any reason not to be very clear in setting out that target. It's almost like the elephant in the room. Everybody thinks about the club's status, but we need to put our heads on the block and say we're going to get there in a certain amount of time. And I think that's now whether that happens or not is another thing. But I think first and foremost we need to set out a very clear objective, and that is to get to the Premier League. Where we are at the moment and how we're performing at the moment, we're a long, long way off that. So it speaks for itself that it's not a straightforward challenge, and I don't want to sort of just make hollow promises or make it sound as if it's going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be, and there will be casualties along the way, and there will be disappointments. We've got to finish this season first, and our run of form at the moment is just, it's unacceptable. So, for me to be sitting here, having signed a contract for 3 years, the club has shown an awful lot of faith in me, and the results are terrible. So I think what that also shows you is that we have a shared vision of what we're looking for, but also how we intend to at least attempt to achieve the dream of being a Premier League side.
You've managed Bristol City without supporters. We are in a period where supporters, for lots of reasons, will be thinking, should I renew my season card? What's the next season going to look like? What would you say to them, Nigel, in terms of your ambition, your thoughts about where this club can go?
As I've already pointed out, I think all I'm verbalising today, I think, is the aims of our fan base. They want us to be. Look, fan bases of every club want to see their players commit to being as good as they can be. They want to see a real drive, and whoever plays, whoever goes out onto the field, represents their club with the sort of values and commitment that the fans have. Now, it's been a singular year. Football's just not the same without the punters in the ground, and our fans, as all fans of all clubs, have had to endure a difficult 12, 15 months, whatever it is. And actually, football won't be able to survive unless we get our fans back in. So I think what's really important is that they believe in the people who represent them. For me, it's fairly straightforward. If you're a supporter of a football club, you want to see your team showing the levels of commitment, and you want to be entertained, and that's not always easy. But I think it's very basic in the sense that fans want to see their team win, and we want our fans to get behind us. But it's up to us to create that feeling. It's not for them to create it for us. And at the moment, we're just not doing that.
So you want essentially the same commitment and passion and dedication from staff and players as fans would show to the club.
Yeah, of course. And I expect that from myself. And if I didn't think I could deliver that, I wouldn't be sitting here now. So I mean, for me, it's. I think sometimes people sitting in this position overcomplicate it, and it's not about tactics. It's not about all that. I hear some managers and coaches over-egging what they're about themselves, and I just think, who they're trying to bluff, me or the fans or themselves. I don't know, but it's always about maximising what you've got. I think it's about having a vision is really important, but then that's not enough if you don't have a clear idea of how you get from A to B. I'm under no illusions. This is going to be a difficult journey to negotiate, but I'm really excited about what the possibilities are, and I think that's in itself is something that for somebody at the stage of my career that I am, I'd say people who know me well would know that I need to have a stimulus and a real. I need to be excited about what it looks like, and the fact that it's going to be a tough journey is one thing. and we need the right people on board to achieve it. But I'm really excited about the possibilities, because if we can get this club moving in the direction that everybody wants it to move in, it will be an exciting journey, I can tell you.